guess if you didn't before, you know now, because Brenda told you all that I have been the musician in residence at Shan's Arts and Medicine program for about 20 years now. In the last 10 years or so, I've become more and more interested in arts and aging, and particularly music, as I've seen it do such incredible things in the hospital setting and other healthcare settings, and in settings with facilities with memory impairment issues as the residents there. I think this kind of started when my own mother was going through a long 10-year period with dementia. And I started playing music for my mother and finding that indeed it did serve to bring her into the present moment. You know, we don't really know exactly what's going on in the minds of people with Alzheimer's or dementia. I think like the finch in Cathy DeWitt's story, there's a lot more going on that they maybe tried to get across that we don't know. Another friend of mine that I spoke to recently has a program called Clay on Wheels, and she takes a pottery wheel and a bunch of clay, and she'll go to someone's house, or she'll go to a facility where there are people there, and let everyone participate in making pottery, so they all can feel this wheel spin around, and they can put their hands on it, and they can do it as a group, they can do it with their family, or they can do it individually. So she showed a video of working with this fellow with Alzheimer's. His name was Joe, and he was a little bit grumpy and reticent when they started. But then as they got going, he just got so engaged. He was so excited by the clay, and she helped him put his hand on it and feel the wheel spinning, and she was making this cup, and he was watching the clay turn into something, and he just kept saying, "This is so fantastic. I love what you're doing. I love what you do. This is just fabulous." And he turned to his wife several times and said, "Mimi, isn't this great? Look at this. Isn't this wonderful? Mimi, look at this." And then she told me that his wife would wear a name tag so he could remember her name, because he didn't usually remember her name. And yet when they were engaged in this activity, and he was so fully present there with this art, he remembered her name. This one of the first people, besides Oliver Sacks, whose work I looked at was Dr. Gene Cohen. He was the first one to do a study about the effects of creative arts on aging, and use a population of people who didn't have necessarily any disorders. They were just, you know, kind of active and just losing the ability to be as active as they did before. So when they did this study, they did it with they created a senior chorale group. Does that sound familiar? I think you got something like that here. And they had quite a few positive outcomes from this study that they did. It took a couple of years. And they were involved with Levine School of Music. And they discovered the outcomes were even more than they'd hoped for. There was less need for medication, there were fewer falls, there was more social activity, there was less depression and loneliness when they figured out the scales for those things. So all of that is really good. And you guys are doing great to be doing that kind of thing here. A lot of times a familiar song will bring forth a memory, and that can be good or bad. So in the work that I do with the hospital population, who is kind of a captive audience, I try to sort of check in with them initially and find out what their favorite music might be, what they might like. I don't want to just immediately walk into the room of an atheist and start playing Amazing Grace, for instance. Even though that might be the most requested song at the hospital, still, you've got to check and see. So here's a song I think, if you know this song, I invite you to sing along. Someday I wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me, somewhere over the rainbow. Bluebirds fly many had more than one memory associated with that song? More than one memory. See, the same song can change in your mind. Your memory of it can change, and it can have a different meaning for you. That song, a lot of people first saw it in the movie, The Wizard of Oz, so it kind of makes you think of your childhood. But then other times, as you grow older, the song might be played in a different context. For me, that song was played at my mother's funeral. So it has a different meaning now. But it's just an additional meaning. It doesn't mean that I don't still love the song. It's just different. It would be different if, say, you were married and you had a favorite song played at your wedding and then you had a really bad divorce. That would totally change the meaning of that song. But in addition to doing familiar songs that elicit memory, it's also really good to have a creative aspect. And one way I like to do that is with community process in making up music. So it can be done a couple of ways. I like to use the theme of the sense of place. And if you have a sense of place that makes you feel good, I know a lot of people here come from other places, as well as some native Floridians. So some people they're lonesome for their home and they think about the place where they used to be. And if you're one of those people, what would you say? Just throw out a couple of phrases of things that you miss or things that make you think of home. Mountains?
Snow.
Snow. Autumn and snow. So you might do something like leaves fall, red and gold and yellow. I know that means that soon there will be snow. Now what if I just played a phrase on the piano and that made you think of something? You can do it the other way around too. So if I did something like So did that make anybody think of anything? Did that elicit any kind of a visual image or memory?
Travel.
Travel?
Yeah.
Like motion, like wheels turning kind of thing? What else?
Waterfall.
Water, that's kind of what makes me think of water. I always think of water when I play E minor, I don't know why.
Fall colors.
Oh, back to the fall colors. Well, I know. When you get into that minor key and you play those little falling notes, I mean, you just can't really be. Some of the best songs have already been written, right? But that doesn't mean we can't keep trying to write our own. It's good for the brain.